The sun hung low over the alien capital, casting long shadows across the sleek towers and glimmering streets. The city was alive with movement. Ships of all sizes hovered above, their engines humming softly, while citizens moved through the plazas in orderly waves. At the center of it all stood the palace, a massive structure of crystal and metal that sparkled in the evening light. Inside, the queen watched from her observation deck, a calm but sharp gaze on her daughter, the princess. The princess moved gracefully through the halls, her silver robes flowing with each step. She had grown up learning diplomacy, strategy, and the art of commanding respect. Today, though, her thoughts were on simpler things: a garden she had been tending, a new song she wanted to learn, and the feeling of freedom she often felt when wandering the palace alone. Suddenly, the air vibrated with the deep roar of engines. The queen's sensors flared red. Something was approaching at incredible speed. Alarms blared throughout the palace. "What is it?" the queen demanded, her voice cold and precise. A young aide ran to her side, panting. "Your Majesty, unidentified ships are entering orbit. They are armed and moving fast. It looks like an attack." The queen's lips pressed into a thin line. She had faced threats before, but this felt different. The ships were small, agile, and strangely advanced. Even her most experienced generals were puzzled. "Prepare the defenses," she ordered. "Alert the city. Evacuate the civilians if necessary." The princess, hearing the alarm, hurried to the observation deck. Her eyes widened as she saw dozens of sleek black ships weaving between the palace towers. They moved with precision and intent. Citizens screamed and ran for cover. Before anyone could react further, one of the black ships shot a pulse of energy at the palace gates. The metal twisted and warped, throwing guards aside. The princess froze as the attackers advanced. She had trained for emergencies, but nothing could have prepared her for this. A deep voice echoed over the palace intercom. "Intruders detected. Evacuate immediately." It was the city's automated defense system, but the words offered little comfort. Then, in the chaos, something impossible happened. A human starship appeared, dropping from hyperspace directly into the attack zone. The ship was smaller than most capital vessels, but moved with incredible speed and precision. Its weapons glowed with bright energy, firing at the black ships with perfect accuracy. The palace guards blinked in disbelief. The queen's hand tightened on the railing. Who is this?" she whispered. Inside the human ship, a man in simple armor focused intently on his controls. He was calm, almost serene, despite the chaos surrounding him. His eyes scanned the enemy ships and his fingers moved with practiced speed. In moments, several black ships exploded in brilliant flashes, their pieces falling harmlessly into the lower city districts. The princess, watching from the deck, felt her heart race. She had never seen such bravery, such skill. The human ship maneuvered through the remaining attackers, weaving and twisting as if it were alive. Then, with a precise shot, it disabled the lead ship carrying the enemy commander. The mercenary fleet faltered, confused and uncoordinated without their leader. Who is that?" the princess asked, her voice trembling. She could barely tear her eyes from the display. The queen did not answer immediately. Her mind raced with suspicion. Humans were rare in this part of the galaxy, and this one had appeared out of nowhere, taking control of the battle with ease. "I will find out," she said, her voice low, "and I will demand answers." Meanwhile, the human pilot maneuvered closer to the palace, his ship hovering just above the rooftops. He extended a small landing platform, and in a few seconds he was at the palace gates. The guards hesitated, unsure whether to stop him or trust him. Before they could decide, he deactivated his weapons and raised his hand slightly, a gesture of peace. The princess ran toward him. Her mind was filled with questions, but she could not stop herself. Are you here to help us?" she asked. The human nodded calmly. "Yes, I am here to help. Come with me." The princess's heart pounded as she climbed onto his ship. The gates closed behind them, sealing out the remaining attackers. For a moment, they hovered above the city, safe but not out of danger. "Why are you here?" the princess asked again, still trying to process everything. The human looked at her, his expression serious but kind. "I do not know your world well," he admitted, "but I know when people are in danger and I act. That is all I can say for now." The princess felt a mix of awe and relief. She had seen many brave soldiers, but none like him. He had saved her life. She could feel it in every beat of her heart. Back in the observation deck, the Queen's eyes narrowed. She studied the human carefully. An outsider intervened in our battle. And he did it alone, she murmured. Her advisors whispered nervously around her. Many were alarmed by the human's skill, while others were outraged at the audacity of an outsider entering the palace uninvited. "Do we know who he is?" one general asked, his voice tight with tension. The Queen shook her head. "No, but I will find out, and I will decide if he is friend or threat." As the human guided the princess to a secure chamber, she could not hide her gratitude. "You saved me. You saved the city," she said, her voice bright with wonder. The human gave a small nod. It was the right thing to do. The princess paused, looking at him carefully. There was something about him, his calm confidence, his focus, his courage, that felt different. She had met many people in her life, but none had moved her as he had. You are my savior," she whispered. The human tilted his head slightly, acknowledging her words without saying more. He had seen too many conflicts in the galaxy to be flattered or distracted. But inside he recognized the trust and hope in her eyes. In the palace council room, the Queen's voice echoed as she called for an immediate audience. "I want this human brought before me," she said. Her eyes burned with a mixture of curiosity, suspicion, and caution. "I need to know who he is and why he has entered my city without permission." The princess, standing beside the human now, felt a small sense of defiance. She could not imagine giving up her gratitude and trust so quickly. "He is different," she said softly, almost to herself. But the words carried weight, and the Queen heard them. "Different?" the Queen asked sharply. She turned, her piercing gaze meeting her daughter's. "Explain, Princess." "Who is he?" The princess looked at the human, then back at her mother. Her eyes shone with certainty and respect. "He is my savior, and my chosen," she said, her voice firm despite the tension in the room. The Queen's eyes narrowed even further. Chosen by whom? By the princess, by fate, or by something else entirely? She felt a mixture of anger, disbelief, and curiosity all at once. She would have to meet him, test him, and discover whether this human was a threat or a gift. Outside, the city slowly began to recover. The remaining black ships had fled, leaving behind damaged buildings and frightened citizens. But one thing was clear. A human had entered their world, saved the princess, and demonstrated skill and bravery unlike anything the aliens had seen before. The princess could not stop thinking about him. She had trusted many advisors, generals, and soldiers, but none had acted with such courage and precision. There was a spark of something extraordinary in him, something she could not explain but could feel deeply. And as the Queen prepared to confront this human, the stage was set for a meeting that would change the fate of the planet. Trust, suspicion, courage, and admiration would collide. The human's presence alone had already shifted the balance of power and expectation. The princess stood in silence, looking out at the city below, and whispered once more, "My savior, and my chosen." The Queen, watching from her chamber, clenched her hands. "We will see, human. We will see." Above them, the stars glimmered, hiding countless secrets. Among them, a human had just entered a new world, and the galaxy would not soon forget him. The human stood at the palace entrance, his calm posture a sharp contrast to the nervous whispers of the guards and advisors around him. The princess walked beside him, her eyes still bright with awe and relief. She could hardly believe that a stranger, someone from a distant world, had saved her life in the city. Yet here he was, stepping into the palace with courage that even seasoned warriors might envy. The Queen had summoned him to the Grand Council chamber, a room of polished metal and crystal that reflected every movement in glittering light. The air was cool and crisp, the lighting designed to emphasize authority and elegance. Advisors, generals, and nobles lined the walls, their expressions a mixture of curiosity, anger, and disbelief. They had seen the battle from the observation deck, and none could explain how a single human could have turned the tide. The human's boots clicked against the marble floor as he followed the princess. He moved with confidence but not arrogance, and he did not flinch under the gazes of the council. His eyes scanned the chamber quickly, taking in the faces, the layout, and the sense of tension that hung in the air like an invisible storm. The Queen sat at the far end of the chamber, her posture perfect, her gaze sharp. When she spoke, her voice was low but commanding. "You have caused quite a stir, human. Some say you saved the princess and the city. Others say you have overstepped all bounds of protocol. Who are you and why have you come to our world?" The human bowed slightly, a gesture of respect he had learned in his travels among many cultures. "I am called Jaren," he said calmly. "I am from a distant planet. I do not know your world well, but I know danger when I see it. I acted to prevent harm. That is all I can say for now." The Queen's eyes narrowed. "You do not know our world, yet you intervene in our affairs? Do you understand the risk you have taken? The laws you have broken?" "I understand," Jaren replied evenly. "And I am willing to accept any consequences once the immediate danger is gone. My first concern was protecting life. Your citizens, your princess, everyone," the council murmured among themselves. A few nobles shook their heads in disbelief, muttering about arrogance, recklessness, and the audacity of an outsider. One general, a tall alien with silver hair and sharp eyes, stepped forward. "This human possesses knowledge and skill far beyond our understanding," he said. "He disabled our attackers with ease. If he is an enemy, we face ruin. If he is an ally, he may be a gift from the stars." The Queen considered the words carefully. She had faced threats before, but this human skill, his calm demeanor and his precise actions during the attack were unprecedented. "Very well," she said finally. "You will answer my questions and your abilities will be tested. If you prove trustworthy, you may remain. If not, you will face judgment." The princess's eyes lit up. She had sensed something extraordinary about Jaren, and now the Queen's acknowledgement validated her feelings. She could see his courage, his intelligence, and his calm presence, all qualities that were rare even among her most trusted advisors. The first test came quickly. The Queen presented Jaren with a complex holographic map of the city's defense systems, including energy shields, ship docking protocols, and communication networks. She challenged him to identify weaknesses that could have been exploited during the attack. Jaren's eyes scanned the map, his fingers moving as if he could manipulate the systems with thought alone. "The attackers targeted the palace gates first, likely to trap the princess," he said. "They used small, fast ships to avoid detection. The energy shields have a delay of 32 milliseconds on activation, which they exploited. If they had concentrated fire, they could have breached the main chamber in under 3 minutes. The council gasped. Few had noticed the delay, and none could have calculated the timing so quickly. The Queen's expression softened slightly, though she did not show it. "Impressive," she admitted. "But knowledge alone does not make one an ally. Can you fight with our forces, using our ships and weapons?" Jaren nodded. "I can adapt quickly. If I understand your systems, I can lead a small team to counter any threat." The Queen's eyes flicked to the princess, who smiled subtly. "He saved you," she said softly, as if reminding her mother. "Yes," the Queen replied. "But saving a life is different from defending a world. We will see if he can do both." Over the next hours, Jaren was tested. He adapted to alien weapon systems, maneuvered ships through simulated battles, and demonstrated tactics that combined human ingenuity with knowledge gleaned from observing alien forces. Even the Queen's most skeptical generals began to nod in approval. The princess stayed close to Jaren, observing his calm approach to every challenge. "You are extraordinary," she said quietly when the tests were done. Jaren looked at her with a small, thoughtful smile. "I only did what was needed," he replied. "I do not seek praise. I seek solutions." The Queen, observing the exchange, felt a mixture of relief and unease. Relief because the human seemed genuinely committed to helping, and unease because the princess's admiration for him was evident. She had taught the princess caution, diplomacy, and discernment. This sudden attachment to an outsider was both unexpected and potentially dangerous. Later, in a private chamber, the Queen spoke to her daughter. "You trust him too easily," she said. "He is skilled, yes, but he is still an outsider. You do not know his motives, his loyalties, or the full extent of his abilities." The princess shook her head. "Mother, he saved me. He saved the city. He does not act for reward or recognition. I can feel it. He is different. And I trust him." The Queen's lips pressed together. She could not deny the human skill, nor the fact that her daughter had spoken with truth and conviction. "We will see," she said carefully. "But trust must be earned fully, and that is not yet complete." Meanwhile, Jaren prepared for the next phase of his involvement. Reports from scouts indicated that the initial attack was only the beginning. Larger forces were mobilizing in the sector, and the rogue faction that had attacked the city was likely part of a much bigger plan. The princess overheard his quiet conversation with one of the generals. "If we anticipate the enemy's moves, we can defend the city without unnecessary loss of life," Jaren said. "We can use the city's geography, the ships, and the people's courage to our advantage. But we must act quickly." Her heart swelled with admiration. He did not just fight. He thought, he planned, and he cared about every life. He was more than a soldier or a pilot. He was a protector. As evening fell over the city, the queen called for a council meeting. The human, escorted by the princess, entered the chamber once more. The atmosphere was tense. Advisors whispered and cast glances, unsure whether to fear or respect him. "You have proven skill," the queen began. "You have saved the princess and protected the city. But your arrival has unsettled the balance of power. Our enemies will see this and act accordingly. Can you handle what is coming?" Jaren met her gaze steadily. "I can," he said. "I will do everything I can to protect this world. But I will need allies, people who trust me and work with me, not against me." The queen studied him carefully. Trust was not something given lightly, and yet she could not ignore the truth in his words. He had demonstrated courage, intelligence, and empathy, qualities that even the most skilled leaders sometimes lacked. The princess stepped forward, her hand lightly touching Jaren's arm. "Mother," she said softly, "he is not just a fighter. He is someone who can help us in ways we have never imagined. I believe in him." The queen's gaze softened just slightly. She had taught her daughter to see clearly, to judge carefully, and to act wisely. And yet, even with all her training and caution, she could not dismiss the bond forming between the human and the princess. The council meeting ended, but the tension remained. Outside the palace walls, the city was quiet now, but everyone knew the peace was fragile. The human had arrived, a stranger in a strange world, and his presence had already shifted expectations, loyalties, and hope. The princess looked at Jaren as they walked through the palace gardens. "I never imagined meeting someone like you," she said. "Someone so calm, brave, and kind. I feel safer with you here." Jaren smiled faintly. "I only do what must be done, but I will stay as long as I am needed." The princess nodded, her heart full. She had seen many heroes in stories, but none like him. He was her savior, and perhaps she thought her chosen. Above them, the stars shone brightly, a silent witness to the beginning of a bond that could change not only their world, but the galaxy itself. And as the city slept under a fragile calm, a greater challenge was already approaching. A threat that would test every skill, every plan, and every ounce of courage they possessed. The calm that had settled over the alien capital was deceptive. From the palace observation deck, the queen watched the skies with a sharp, vigilant gaze. The city had recovered from the initial attack, but her instincts told her that danger lingered. Scouts had returned with fragmented reports, small fast ships, advanced weapons, and strange energy signatures. Something larger was moving in the shadows of space. Jaren, the human who had saved the princess and the city, stood beside her, his expression calm but focused. He had spent the day examining the city's defenses, studying alien technology, and learning the patrol patterns of their ships. The more he saw, the more he realized that the recent attack was not an isolated event. It was a warning, a test, and a precursor to something far more dangerous. "The attackers were only the beginning," Jaren said quietly. "They wanted to see how we respond, how fast we can act. And now whatever is coming will be bigger, more organized, and far more deadly." The queen turned to him, her eyes narrowing. "Do you have proof of this claim?" "I have patterns," Jaren replied. He tapped on a holographic display. Energy readings from deep space show movement, a fleet larger than the one that attacked the city. They are coordinating their approach, avoiding detection by standard sensors. "This is no ordinary raid. This is a strategic assault." The queen studied the hologram, her mind racing. "You say this human fleet is approaching, but why would they target us?" "They may not know your politics, your alliances, or your people," Jaren said. "They see an opportunity. They see weakness, and they know the city is vulnerable without proper leadership in the field." The princess, who had been standing quietly, placed a hand on Jaren's shoulder. "Then we cannot wait. We must act before it is too late." Her voice carried both urgency and conviction. The queen regarded her daughter carefully. "You speak boldly, princess. Do you understand the risks? This human's strategies may save lives, but they may also anger those who resent an outsider leading our defenses. I understand, Mother, the princess replied. But I trust him. He saved my life, and he has shown courage, skill, and intelligence. He is not like anyone we have met before. The queen's eyes flicked to Jaren. She could not deny that his skill was extraordinary. He had adapted to alien technology, assessed the city's defenses with precision, and remained calm under pressure. Still, she hesitated. Trusting an outsider was dangerous, even for someone as capable as her daughter. Meanwhile, Jaren moved swiftly. He gathered the city's top pilots, strategists, and engineers. In the palace's command room, he began outlining a plan. Holographic maps displayed the city's layout, the surrounding space, and the predicted approach of the enemy fleet. We will divide the defense into 3 layers, Jaren said, pointing to the map. The first layer will intercept small ships, the second layer will protect key structures, and the third layer will focus on counterattacks against the main fleet. Timing is critical. Coordination is essential, and every pilot must trust each other. The generals exchanged uneasy glances. Many had not seen a human command strategy before, and the speed and logic of his plan were unusual. Some muttered about recklessness, while others began to nod in approval. You understand our ships, our weapons, and our forces better than most of our generals, one advisor whispered. Perhaps he is more than just a savior. Jaren noticed the whisper but ignored it, focusing on the task at hand. We cannot rely on chance, he said. We cannot rely on tradition. The enemy is clever. They will look for weaknesses. We must be ready for every possibility. As he worked, the princess stayed close, asking questions, offering suggestions, and learning quickly. She had never seen such clear thinking under pressure. Her admiration for him grew with every word, every decision, and every calm calculation. Late in the evening, scouts returned with confirmation. A large fleet had emerged from the shadow of a nearby star cluster. The ships were heavily armed, their energy signatures far more advanced than the initial attackers. The enemy was organized, disciplined, and on a direct path toward the city. The queen watched the readouts in silence, her face tight with concern. So it is true, she said quietly. The attack was only a warning. The real threat is coming. Jaren studied the incoming fleet. They are fast, but they are not unpredictable. Their formation is tight, their approach methodical. If we act strategically, we can divide them, confuse them, and minimize casualties. The queen's advisors were skeptical. A human is suggesting how to defend the entire city and its fleet, one said. Do you expect us to follow his orders? The queen held up a hand. We will listen. We will test his strategies, and if they prove effective, we will act. He saved the princess and defended the city. That alone gives him credibility. The princess smiled at Jaren. See, Mother, he knows what he is doing. He has a plan, and it works. Jaren turned to the princess. This will be dangerous. Many will be afraid. Many will not understand my approach. But we must stay united. Fear and hesitation are what the enemy wants. The princess nodded. Then we will stay united. I trust you. The next day, Jaren led the city's fleet in a series of training exercises. The pilots, initially hesitant, began to follow his strategies. He taught them new maneuvers, combining human tactics with alien technology. Ships moved in precise formations, firing coordinated shots and using the environment to their advantage. The queen observed from the observation deck. She had to admit, even reluctantly, that Jaren's strategies were effective. The simulations showed minimal losses and maximum efficiency. The enemy, if they followed the same path as predicted, would face an organized and prepared defense. The princess joined her mother, watching Jaren from afar. He is remarkable, she said softly. I have never met anyone like him. He is brave, intelligent, and he understands people, even if they do not trust him at first. The queen remained silent, her mind a whirl of caution and curiosity. She could see why the princess admired him. She could also see the risk in placing so much responsibility in the hands of an outsider, yet his results spoke for themselves. That evening, the enemy fleet made its first move. Sensors detected dozens of ships approaching the city's outer perimeter. Jaren stood in the command room, calm and focused. This is the test, he said. Remember your training. Follow the plan. Trust each other. The fleet moved out, led by Jaren's guidance. The first layer of defense intercepted the smaller ships, engaging them in skirmishes that minimized damage to the city. The second layer protected key structures, using energy shields and clever maneuvers to block attacks. The third layer, under Jaren's direct command, targeted the enemy's main ships, striking with precision and timing that few could predict. The Queen watched, tension coiling in her chest. Every move, every decision mattered, and yet Jaren's calm presence inspired confidence. Even the most skeptical generals began to acknowledge his skill. The princess, standing beside her mother, whispered, "He will protect us." "I know he will." The battle raged, but Jaren's strategies held. The enemy fleet, though powerful and numerous, struggled against the combined force of alien and human tactics. Ships moved with surprising agility, attacks were anticipated and countered, and the city's defenses remained strong. By the time the first wave ended, the enemy had suffered significant losses. The human pilot had turned the tide without unnecessary destruction, using skill, strategy, and precision instead of brute force. The Queen, finally allowing herself a small sigh of relief, looked at Jaren. "You have proven your abilities in strategy and leadership. I see why the princess trusts you." Jaren nodded, but his expression remained serious. "This is only the beginning. The enemy will regroup. They will return stronger. We must be ready and we must continue to adapt." The princess smiled at him, a mix of admiration and hope. "Then we will face them together. With you here, I believe we can overcome anything." The Queen, observing the exchange, realized that her daughter was right. This human, with his skill, courage, and wisdom, was not just a savior. He was a force that could change the course of the city, the planet, and perhaps the galaxy. As night fell, the stars above the city shimmered, hiding countless mysteries. One thing was certain: the human had entered this world, and his presence had already altered its fate. The hidden threat was real, but with Jaren leading the way, hope had returned. The princess looked at him once more, her heart full of gratitude and trust. "You are my savior," she whispered. "And I believe you are my chosen." Jaren, silent as ever, gave a small nod, understanding the weight of her words and the challenge that lay ahead. The human, Jaren, stood in the heart of the palace command chamber, his eyes scanning the holographic display of the approaching enemy fleet. The room was alive with activity as alien pilots, engineers, and strategists moved swiftly, coordinating weapons, shields, and patrols. Every movement mattered. Every decision could mean life or death. Jaren's calm presence inspired those around him. He spoke clearly, giving orders and explaining tactics that combined human ingenuity with alien technology. "Focus on coordination," he said, pointing to clusters of incoming ships. "Use the terrain, the gravity wells, and the narrow passages in orbit to our advantage. The enemy is fast, but we can outthink them." The princess stood beside him, her eyes bright and full of determination. She had learned quickly from Jaren, absorbing tactics and asking questions. "What about the energy shields on the capital's upper towers?" she asked. "If they are breached, civilians could be at risk." Jaren nodded. "We'll reinforce them with overlapping shields and a second layer of drones. The enemy will think they have an advantage, but will control the engagement." The Queen watched from the observation deck above, her hands resting lightly on the railing. She had initially doubted Jaren, wary of trusting a human, an outsider. But now she could not deny his brilliance. His strategies were clear, precise, and adaptable. Even more surprising, he inspired loyalty among her people. Soldiers who had been skeptical now moved with purpose, motivated by his calm authority. Still, the Queen's advisors whispered among themselves. "Can we truly trust him?" one asked, his voice low. "He is not of our people. He does not understand all the politics and traditions. What if he makes a mistake?" The Queen's lips pressed into a thin line. "We have no choice," she said quietly. "He has proven skill beyond any of our generals. We must act and we must trust, carefully." Meanwhile, Jaren led a series of drills with the pilots. Ships darted in and out of simulated attack patterns using the strategies he had outlined. Many alien pilots struggled at first, unused to the unorthodox maneuvers and timing he required. Some complained that his methods were too risky. "You cannot always rely on what has been done before," Jaren explained patiently. "The enemy expects tradition. We will surprise them with innovation. Trust your instincts, but follow the plan." The princess watched him patiently correct errors, guide movements, and encourage the pilots. His teaching was firm but kind, and his confidence inspired even the most hesitant to try. She could see how he earned loyalty not by fear but by respect. Yet not all were pleased. Some nobles and military leaders, jealous of the human's influence, began to plot. They whispered in corners, questioning his motives and sowing seeds of doubt. One ambitious general approached the queen privately. "Your Majesty, can we truly place our defenses in the hands of a human? The princess admires him too much. What if he becomes too powerful?" The queen considered the words carefully. She had to balance the safety of the city with the politics of her court. "We will monitor him," she said, "but do not underestimate him. He has already proven his skill and loyalty." That night the princess found Jaren alone in the training bay, reviewing maps and tactical simulations. "You are facing so much scrutiny," she said softly. "Some fear you, others doubt you, but you remain calm. How do you do it?" Jaren looked up, a small, thoughtful smile on his face. "I focus on what must be done. Fear is natural, but it cannot control us. Doubt can exist, but we must act with clarity and courage." The princess nodded, inspired by his words. "You do not just fight with weapons. You fight with your mind and with trust. That is rare." Jaren paused. "Trust must be earned," he said. "And I trust you, princess. You have seen clearly, even when others doubted. That is why I can rely on your judgment." As dawn broke over the city, scouts returned with urgent reports. The enemy fleet had reorganized and was moving faster than expected. Their numbers were larger than initial estimates, and their formations were tight. It was clear they had learned from the previous engagement and were adapting. Jaren immediately adjusted the defense plan. He divided the city's forces into rapid response squads, layered defenses, and decoy units to confuse the enemy. The princess helped relay orders, coordinating ships and ground defenses with precision. The queen watched the preparations with a mixture of awe and anxiety. Her daughter had grown in confidence working side by side with a human she had initially feared. And yet she could not ignore the growing tension among some council members who resented Jaren's influence. The first wave of the enemy arrived just before noon. The sky above the city shimmered with the approaching ships. The battle was fierce. Smaller attack ships darted toward the city, firing energy blasts that struck shields and buildings. Civilians huddled in shelters as alarms rang across the streets. Jaren's strategies were executed flawlessly. The decoy ships drew enemy fire, leading them into carefully planned traps. Overlapping shields absorbed attacks on key structures, and rapid response squads neutralized threats before they could reach the palace. The princess observed the battle closely, issuing orders alongside Jaren. She had never felt such urgency, yet she remained calm, inspired by his focus and courage. "They will not break us," she said quietly to herself. But internal challenges surfaced. One of the nobles, refusing to follow Jaren's plan, attempted to redirect a squadron against his orders. The enemy nearly exploited the error, but Jaren intervened with a quick tactical adjustment, minimizing losses and stabilizing the defense. After the first wave, the enemy fleet retreated, leaving a warning signal behind, a pulse of energy that lit up the skies. The queen's eyes narrowed. "They are returning," she said, "and next time they will come stronger." Jaren studied the pulse carefully. "They are testing us," he said. "They want to see how we adapt, how quickly we respond. The next wave will be calculated and precise. We must anticipate their moves and stay one step ahead." The princess looked at him, admiration shining in her eyes. "With you here, I believe we can overcome anything. You are not just a savior, Jaren, you are a leader." Jaren nodded, but he remained serious. "Leadership is responsibility, princess. It is not just about winning battles. It is about protecting people, inspiring loyalty, and thinking ahead. We must be ready for anything." The queen, watching the exchange from above, felt a mixture of pride and caution. She had seen the human's skill and courage firsthand. She had seen her daughter grow in confidence, inspired by him, and she had seen how he had earned the loyalty of soldiers and citizens alike. Yet she knew the ultimate test had not yet come. The enemy fleet was returning, and this time the stakes would be higher. Every decision, every movement, every ounce of courage would be tested. And the human, this outsider who had entered their world so suddenly, would be at the center of it all. The princess, standing beside Jaren in the calm before the next wave, whispered softly, "We are ready. Together we can face anything." Jaren looked at her, understanding the weight of her words. "We are not just fighting for ourselves," he said. "We are fighting for every life in this city and every hope it represents. That is why we must act with courage, strategy, and unity." As the sun set over the horizon, the city prepared once more. Ships were readied, shields reinforced, and troops briefed. The enemy fleet approached silently, their presence looming in the darkness of space. The stage was set for the ultimate test, and the human who had saved the princess would lead the charge. The queen, observing from above, whispered to herself, "We will see if he is truly worthy." The princess, watching Jaren, whispered, "He is my savior, and my chosen." And in the shadows of the approaching enemy fleet, the battle for the city, the princess, and the future of their world was about to begin. The city stood tense under a darkening sky, waiting. Ships were in position, shields hummed with energy, and every soldier, pilot, and engineer moved with careful precision. The humans and aliens alike had prepared tirelessly under Jaren's guidance. The lessons of the previous waves had sharpened their skills, and though nerves ran high, there was a quiet confidence in their unity. Jaren stood in the command chamber, calm as ever, surveying the battlefield. His eyes moved quickly across holographic displays of the enemy fleet, now fully revealed. Hundreds of heavily armed ships glimmered in the void, organized into a precise formation that showed strategy, discipline, and power. This was no ordinary raid. This was an attempt to conquer. The queen and the princess watched from the observation deck. The queen's hands rested lightly on the railing, her gaze steady. She had followed Jaren closely since his arrival, and had seen his brilliance in strategy and leadership. Still, there was an edge of worry. The enemy was formidable, and even with Jaren's tactics, the risk was immense. The princess, standing beside her mother, held her hand tightly. Her eyes never left Jaren. "He will save us," she whispered softly. "I know he will." Jaren turned to the council and the assembled pilots. "This is the moment we've trained for," he said. "The enemy expects hesitation. We will give them none. Every maneuver, every strike, every shield placement must be precise. Trust each other. Follow the plan. Protect the city and protect each other." The enemy fleet advanced, their engines glowing against the darkness of space. As they drew closer, their weapons charged, ready to strike. The first salvo hit. An energy blast lit up the skies above the city. Shields flared, absorbing some of the damage, while rapid response teams targeted the attackers' smaller ships. Jaren's strategy unfolded with astonishing precision. Decoy squadrons lured the enemy into narrow channels, where energy nets and trap sequences immobilized ships. Overlapping shields protected critical structures, while concentrated strikes disabled key enemy vessels. The alien fleet's formations faltered as Jaren's maneuvers outmatched their expectations. The Queen watched in awe as the battle continued. Jaren's calm authority, his tactical brilliance, and his ability to adapt under pressure had earned the loyalty of the city's defenders. Even the most skeptical generals followed his lead without hesitation, trusting the human who had arrived only days ago. The princess, eyes bright, moved between communication consoles, relaying instructions and coordinating defense teams. Her confidence, inspired by Jaren, had grown. She had learned quickly, absorbing the strategies he taught, and she now stood as an active partner in the defense of her world. Despite the chaos, Jaren remained steady. He directed counterattacks against the enemy's main fleet, targeting ships carrying their commanders and energy amplifiers. With each strike, the enemy's power weakened and confusion spread through their ranks. A sudden alarm rang through the command chamber. One of the enemy squadrons had bypassed the first layers of defense and was approaching the central city district. Jaren's eyes narrowed. "I will intercept," he said calmly. Without hesitation, he boarded a fighter and launched into space. The princess watched him go, her heart pounding. She could see the determination in his movements, the focus in his eyes. He was fearless yet calculated. Every maneuver was precise, every strike deliberate. He engaged the enemy squadron head-on, weaving between blasts, striking with pinpoint accuracy, and disabling ships one by one. Back in the command chamber, the Queen's hand tightened on the railing. She had feared for Jaren's life, but she could not deny his skill. The human moved as if he had anticipated every attack, every movement, every decision. Slowly, the enemy squadron was neutralized and the city remained unharmed. Jaren returned to the command chamber, landing his fighter with a precise touch. He walked calmly back inside, unshaken, his presence inspiring confidence. "The squadron is down," he reported. "The city is safe for now. We must continue the coordinated strikes. The main fleet is weakening." The enemy, realizing their losses, began a final desperate assault. Massive ships fired energy beams toward the palace, seeking to destroy the command center and demoralize the defenders. Jaren quickly analyzed their formation and vulnerabilities. "Focus fire on the command vessels," he ordered. "Disable them and the rest will scatter. Timing is critical." Pilots and weapons teams responded with precision. Energy beams struck the enemy command ships, causing massive explosions. The enemy fleet faltered, disorganized and vulnerable. Jaren led the final counterattack, combining his tactical knowledge with the bravery and skill of every pilot. One by one, the enemy ships were destroyed or forced to retreat. As the last enemy ship fled, silence fell over the battlefield. The city remained intact, the palace unharmed, and the citizens safe. For the first time in days, the defenders allowed themselves a deep breath. The Queen stepped forward, her expression a mixture of awe and respect. She looked at Jaren, standing calmly amidst the victorious crew. "You have saved us," she said, her voice strong but carrying a hint of emotion. "Not just the princess, not just the city, but our people and our future. You have proven yourself beyond any doubt." Jaren inclined his head slightly, acknowledging her words. "I did what was necessary," he said simply. "The city, its people, and the princess needed protection. That was my purpose." The princess stepped forward, her eyes shining. "You are my savior," she said softly yet firmly, "and my chosen. Without you, we could have lost everything." She turned to her mother. "Mother, he has not only saved us, but he has shown courage, wisdom, and loyalty beyond measure. He belongs among us as an ally and a friend." The Queen studied Jaren carefully. His actions, his strategies, and his calm presence had earned her trust. She realized that he was not only a savior, but a leader capable of inspiring loyalty, courage, and unity. Slowly she nodded. "Then it is decided," she said. "You are recognized as a defender of this city, of this people. Your deeds have earned our respect, our trust, and our gratitude. From this day you stand among us, not as an outsider, but as a guardian." A cheer erupted from the soldiers and pilots, their voices carrying through the palace and across the city. Jaren remained calm, but the faintest smile appeared on his face. He had not sought recognition, yet he understood its importance. Loyalty, trust, and unity were stronger than titles, but acknowledgement strengthened bonds and inspired hope. The princess approached him, her hand resting lightly on his arm. "You are not just a hero, Jaren," she said. "You are a part of our world now, and I am grateful for everything you have done. I trust you completely." Jaren looked at her, understanding the weight and sincerity of her words. "Thank you, Princess," he said quietly. "I will continue to protect this city and its people to the best of my ability." The Queen, watching the exchange, felt a mixture of relief and pride. Her daughter had found someone who embodied courage, wisdom, and loyalty, and the human who had arrived as a stranger had now earned a permanent place in their world. As night fell over the city, the citizens began to emerge from their shelters. Cheers and songs filled the streets, celebrating the victory and honoring the human who had saved them. Jaren stood quietly among the defenders, observing the joy and relief on their faces. He had not come seeking fame or recognition, yet the gratitude of an entire people was profound. The princess stood beside him once more, gazing at the stars above. "The galaxy is vast," she said softly, "but somehow fate brought you here, and I am thankful, not just for saving me, but for showing us what courage and heart truly mean." Jaren smiled faintly. "Every life matters," he replied, "and sometimes we find purpose in protecting others. That is what I have done here, and that is what I will continue to do." The Queen approached, her expression softened but firm. "You have earned my respect, human. You have proven that bravery, intelligence, and loyalty are not bound by origin. You are welcome in this city and in my court. From this day, your name will be remembered alongside those who defended our people." Jaren bowed respectfully. "Thank you, Your Majesty. I will not fail your trust." The princess smiled, her heart full. "We are safe thanks to you, and I know our future is brighter because of you." Above the city, the stars glittered like jewels. The battle had ended, the threat was gone, and hope had returned. The human had arrived as a stranger, fought as a warrior, and earned a place among them as a protector, a leader and a trusted ally. And as the Queen, The princess and the people celebrated. A bond had been formed that could not be broken. A bond of trust, courage, and the knowledge that heroes could come from anywhere, even a distant world. The princess looked at Jaren one final time that night, whispering softly, "My savior, high chosen." Jaren, standing under the same stars, gave a small nod. He had no need for words. His actions had spoken, his courage had shown, and his place among them was now undeniable. The galaxy would remember him, and this world would never forget the human who had saved it.